Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Javier, and this is the Liz Javier podcast. And you get your way. And if you ask my siblings, they'll say, I always got my way because I was the youngest and I was spoiled. But a lot of the times I felt like I was not seen or heard. When you're a child, you are developed into behaviors and what your self-worth looks like. And I was raised and the things that I went through really limited my ability to trust others and to express myself. I was hurting so much inside. You know, when you just have this hurt that is so emotional that just starts from your heart and then it radiates into your gut and then you start to feel it in your limbs and then all of a sudden your head just feels like it's going to explode. I just wanted the pain to go away. I wanted that pain to stop. And it did. Welcome to my episode about me. I'm not one who really likes to talk about me a whole lot or really go too in depth about myself, but today I feel compelled to do so. I've had such a wonderful day and I just feel so bright, shiny, just full of energy. And I want to share some things about me. Now, I hope you'll stay for the whole ride. I hope this inspires you in some way, or at least makes you smile, laugh, cry, give you some kind of emotion, because I know I'm probably going to cry. Now, I want to share a couple different situations in my life and give you really a background on where I came from. And as a life and wellness coach, and some life and wellness coaches, a lot of them have their backstories and how they got to where they are, and here is mine. Now, I was able to overcome some of the hardest situations in my life, which gave me the best opportunities for some really deep self-discovery. So get ready, because I'm about to share my journey into becoming what I am now in this authentic self. And it's been such a long journey, and there's been only so many times in my life I've fully and truly felt like my authentic self. And I know you can too. So I hope that you take the steps that you need for that self-discovery to find your authentic self in your journey. Now, I'm about to share a journey into becoming this authentic self, but it's going to look different for everybody. And you're going to hear about how I went from struggling in the depths of my lowest, the most depressed, the most disempowered, and lonely, sad, just pathetic person into the empowered, amazing woman that I am today. And it's an amazing feeling that I have inside of my mind and my body and my heart that I have today. And you won't believe the person that I used to be, or the person that I was before. When I was at my most depressed, when I was at my most angry and my most lost, I fucking lost it. And I lost it on the people around me that loved me. I have lost it to those that, I was in relationships with. And that person definitely was not somebody that I expected. And for those that know me and see me now as a positive person, seeing my posts, my stories, my life, that wasn't always me. I had a darkness overcome me, and I absolutely blew up at someone who was trying to love me by controlling me and manipulating me into something that I didn't recognize, but they were doing the best to love me for what they could. So I'm very grateful for that hate and that anger that I felt. That made me absolutely freaking blow up that day, because if I didn't think I would be where I am now. Now, before I get to that story of that day, I want to give you a little bit of background on myself in my early life so you understand where I'm coming from. And this isn't just something that my adult life has happened. When I was young, I am the youngest of 8 siblings, so I have an older brother and 6 older sisters. Love you guys if you're listening. I was a very shy child, and I siblings, if you're listening, this is my perspective on some things, and I appreciate you and love you for everything that you've done for me. I hope you don't take any offense to any of this, or any family or friends listening. I'm not going to use names unless it's someone that I want to shout out for some love. But if you don't want to be mentioned, please let me know. But I I was always the youngest. If you think about the youngest child, I don't know if you guys understand this or have a ton of siblings. The youngest person doesn't have an opinion. You want to do something, you want to go somewhere. Sometimes you can beg and cry and you get your way. And if you ask my siblings, they'll say, I always got my way because I was the youngest and I was spoiled. But a lot of the times I felt like I was not seen or heard. I was told to sit down, be quiet, don't cry. I grew up in a situation or in my family, we just really didn't show emotions, and that was discouraged. And I don't think it was really on purpose, but that's really what it became. So when you cried, hey, don't cry, get over it. Hey, what's wrong with you? Like, stop it. You came to something like, I'm feeling this or that, just like, oh, just get over it. You're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. So really, when you think about what that looks like, for me, that was affection. And it was very sparse. I probably got the most hugs and kisses from my sisters. And thankfully, I had 6 of them, so there was plenty to go around. But there was not really a whole lot of affection in my family, really. There's more now, and I've kind of forced it on some of them. So I feel like there's more now. Now, these early experiences like really shaped my self-worth. And I don't think anybody realizes that when you're a child, you are developed into behaviors and what your self-worth looks like. And how I was raised and the things that I went through really limited my ability to trust others and to express myself. And even today, in confrontational situations, for whatever reason at my job, I don't have a problem having hard conversations. But when it comes to personal relationships, those conversations are really hard for me to express my emotions. So, right there is part of the issue that started to unravel as we get to what I'm going to say is my deepest and darkest moment of my life. Now, that was growing up. When I was younger, I always seemed to pick the wrong friends. I had friends that I didn't want to conform to, whether that was drinking, smoking, doing drugs. I didn't mind if they did it, but I didn't want to do it. And for some reason, they thought that I was judging them, and maybe I was. I can't really go back and say yes or no, I wasn't judging them. I didn't want them to do those things. I didn't want them to harm their bodies. But, when it came down to it, I was trying to be my true self and set boundaries, and they didn't like that. So I always pick friends that seemed to be attracted to me, and then they met each other and they decided to do all these things that I didn't like. And so then they would go and be friends and leave me behind. And that was okay, but I always felt abandoned by people that I thought I loved and trusted. I had my first real boyfriend and relationship in high school, and I don't care what you say about high school relationships. Yes, they typically are short, don't mean anything, but I will tell you, my first relationship and my first heartbreak also impacted the rest of my life. So if you're going through a heartbreak or some kind of toxic relationship now, it's going to affect the rest of your life, but only if you let it. My first relationship, we were together for around 3 years, from 15 to 18 years old. And during that time, he was such a great guy, loved me for who I was, spoiled me rotten, always took care of me. And at the end of the day, he cheated on me. I caught him red-handed, and that was the biggest heartbreak that I could have ever imagined for my first love. And when I reflect back on the experience, it really reinforced self-doubt that I had for myself and inside myself, that it affected my ability to have a healthy relationship, healthy love, and healthy connection with another human in that sort of way. And in some ways for friendships as well. So when I faced that betrayal and emotional abuse from that guy, from then on forward, it explains the short-lived relationships that I have. And my family is listening. Now you might understand why. That one really, really got to me and broke my heart. It wasn't just one person that he cheated on me with. I later found out there was at least a dozen over those 12 years that could be named that he cheated on me with. And knowing that just really breaks my heart, and to understand that someone could do that to me. But what I have come to terms with finally, 20 years later, is that he was a narcissist. He was a habitual liar, and his actions had nothing to do with who I was. Because I was a loving person, he saw that as an opportunity to take advantage of that. So fasting forward, this is all still my teenage years. I still haven't even gotten to my adulthood. This is one of those situations that was probably my first rock bottom. And this is not the ultimate one that I'm going to share with you, so still stick around. When I was about 16 years old, I had those friends that I talked about, the ones that backstabbed, the ones that abandoned me, the ones that didn't want to be my friends. And then I also had at that time the boyfriend that I talked about. We were in an argument. Something wasn't right in our relationship at that moment in time. And I also had my parents who I was fighting with, my mom who felt very controlling, me being the last person in the household. You know, all of my brothers and sisters are 5 years or older than me. And all the attention was on me, and not all of it was positive. And because I had older siblings and I love you guys, don't take this personally, they made a lot of mistakes, and my mom did not want to see me make those same mistakes. But her mistake was not letting me make the mistakes I needed to make in order to formulate who I was in my life. Now, not her fault. It was a culmination of everything. I was hurting so much inside. You know, when you just have this hurt that is so emotional that just starts from your heart and then it radiates into your gut, and then you start to feel it in your limbs, and then all of a sudden your head just feels like it's going to explode. That type of pressure, that type of hurt, my whole body was in pain. Everything was in pain. Like when your mind and your brain and your emotions are in such pain, all you want is for it to stop. And when I was 16 years old, I wanted it to stop. You would think, oh, you're 16, your problems weren't that bad. They were. It was my perspective and my story. And so if you're going to hate on this, hate on it. But that is not your choice of how I feel. And I'm 40 now. And I will say back then, these are still valid. So if you look at a 16-year-old that they're having a hard time, help them. Don't let them just try to figure it out on their own or tell them to suck it up and it'll be okay. Because thankfully, I was okay. But I wanted that pain to go away so much that I had such an emotional mental break at that point in my life that when I went into the bathroom after all this fallout with my friends, fights with my family, fights with my boyfriend, all I wanted was the pain to go away. And what do you do when you have this pain, right? If you have shoulder pain, you have knee pain, you take some Tylenol. Well, I did, but I took a whole entire bottle because I wanted the pain to go away. And I remember in that moment, I was not in control. My subconscious took over and said, this pain needs to go away. You need this pain to go away. Make it go away. And when I took that bottle of Tylenol, it was like 100 count. It was brand new. So it was probably untouched or very little taken out of it. I didn't want to die. I wasn't trying to necessarily kill myself, I don't think. I just wanted the pain to go away. I wanted that pain to stop. And it did. I felt relief. I let just my body go. And the one thing that I did, and I'm glad I did, was I was at my boyfriend's place at the time. I took that bottle and I threw it at him before I left. And I left. If I wouldn't have, I don't think he would have figured it out until later. And I would be dead. But luckily, he loved me enough he took me to the hospital to get my stomach pumped. And my parents came. And I think that moment changed my life, and not for the good. There was a lot of pain and a lot of therapy and a lot of things that happened after that point in my life. But that trauma sticks with people. And you've probably been through some trauma yourself. Maybe not this bad, maybe worse. But that shit sticks with you. And if you think that was rock bottom, we're not there yet. I know after that, there were some things that happened. My boyfriend and I stayed together. I moved out of the house. I still had my job. I still finished high school. I still graduated. There's people that still don't know this that probably went to school with me. I didn't live at home from 16 to 18. There was 2 junior and senior year. Most of junior year and senior year, I didn't live at home. I lived elsewhere. I lived with my boyfriend for a while, and then I lived with his grandma for a while. Bless her heart. She took me in after him and I broke up, and I moved on. There was a lot of behavior that happened from that point up into partying, drinking, and all of that in my 20s, that I was just masking the pain. I made a lot of great friends, and I had a lot of good fun, and a lot of that had me just masking the pain and trying to be happy and hiding that. And it worked for a while, but that eventually comes back up. That trauma lives in your body until you deal with it. And it took me a long time to deal with it. So if you're lost and unsure of your path, I was too. I never knew what I wanted to do in my career. I never knew what my dreams were and how I wanted to chase them. There's been family members in my life that have discouraged my dreams, or to me, they've discouraged my dreams. I've confronted that later in life, and for them, they weren't discouraging me. They were just trying to give me all of the facts. So on their perspective, and I see it, they were trying to give me all of the facts that I needed to know in order to make the decision to do or not to do specific things. Like, I wanted to become a physical therapist. I want to go back to school to do this or that. And it would always be like, well, you sure you want to do that? Because you never know if you're going to go through with it, or this could happen. And it was all negative. And I see that's the way that they know how to show love. And I respect that, but I also removed myself from that. Now, all of this trauma that happened from the time I was younger to my 20s, unsure of what I wanted to do, just kept looping me in this pattern of doubting myself, of avoiding true commitments to my career or a purpose. So I would always find these jobs that I was good at, but I really didn't enjoy doing, or things that I just fell in my lap, and opportunities that I had, but they never really fulfilled me and my purpose. Now, in my 20s, just kind of flew by, had fun, whatever it might be. And then coming into my 30s, I was living in Austin, Texas at the time, and looking for the love of my life, having a blast, had a great group of friends, all of these things. And I ended up in a relationship with someone that I thought I was going to marry. And him and we fell pretty hard, pretty fast for each other. And looking back, there were several red flags that I just freaking ignored. And I don't have time to go into the whole entire story, because I could probably go a whole entire hour into the toxicity of our relationship. And it started out very, very innocent. Well, we fell in love pretty fast and hard. A few months later, my lease was up. I was broke. I was working several jobs. I wasn't really happy in my career. So he was just like, well, why don't we move in with each other? Why don't we share responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. So I did. Big mistake. I gave up my pets at that time because he was allergic. Huge red flag, something I'll never do. If you're in a relationship, ladies and gentlemen, and you have pets that you love, if that person isn't willing to make room for you and your pets, they're not for you. If they love you enough, they will figure out a way. So if you're out there and in that situation, it's a big red flag. Now, during this relationship, so at this point, it was the longest relationship that I had had. I believe at this time I was 31 years old, and we were together a total of 11 months. And I think it was around the 4 or 5 month mark we moved in together. And it was about 6 months in where he got this amazing, well-paying job and was traveling for his job quite a bit. Well, it came to known that he wanted to move in order to be able to travel easier for his job. And I really didn't want to leave Austin. I was loving it there. It was just such an amazing town with my amazing friends. But I had this guy, and I'm like, well, I already gave up my pets for this guy. I see this as someone that I'm going to marry. Like, am I really going to be this petty to where I need to keep my pets for 6 or 7 more years or stay in this town when I could get married and start a family? Like, I'm 31, 32 years old. Like, I need to start moving on my life and start making, getting the things that I want, right? Get married, have kids, have a family. Well, don't force it. Don't force it if it's not meant to be. I think in my mind, this is where I wanted to go. I was so enthralled with the end game of what that was going to look like that I didn't enjoy the ride along the way. That I let a lot of these red flags just wave right in front of my face. And I said, whatever, it's going to be fine. Well, everything was fine for a while. He was a really great guy. We got along. Things were awesome until we moved to Kansas City. And I moved into this place with a friend of his so we could afford rent, or so I could afford rent while he was out traveling, and he got relocated to Chicago shortly after that. So it was a waste of time even moving to Kansas City. And it was just one thing after another. He started buying me clothes. Hey, here's some clothes. Like, I thought it was so sweet. Oh, he's spoiling me buying me clothes. But they were clothes I didn't really like. They weren't my style. And so I was just like, oh, that's sweet, and just kind of put them away. And then I was just over it, and I couldn't be away. I'm like, I moved to Kansas City. I am here. I have a friend. Like, this is good, but I don't want to be here. This is not where I want to live. I don't want to live where there's winter, snow, all these things. I left for a reason. And so I gave him an ultimatum that we needed to be in one place. I was taking care of his dog. I was living here with his friend. It was an older guy who just, sweet guy, but when he would get too drunk and too weird, he would start bothering me, talking to me, always in my space, and it just was a very uncomfortable situation. And I had a breaking point, and I gave him an ultimatum. Hey, we have to live in the same city, or I've got to get out of here. I'm going back to Austin. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, we've got to figure something out. So he found a job in St. Louis. We moved to St. Louis. We were back in the same place again. He promised me he would take care of me until I found a job. Everything was back to good again. And I was trying to search for, okay, this is my opportunity to really find myself, my purpose in my career. And I was looking into teaching yoga and, maybe, selling Beachbody at that time. I really wanted to be in the health and wellness industry again, as I was before. And so he was just that sound in my ear that I remember hearing before. Are you sure you want to do that? That's not going to make a lot of money. Are you sure you want to do that? I don't think that's a good idea. And it's just like I felt defeated and deflated again. And he was right. Like, I have to make money and I have to get a job. So he's like, well, here, take this course. I bought this course for you. You can do this job and it's going to pay immediately $90,000 a year and blah, 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 blah. Here's some more clothes that I bought you. Why don't you wear more makeup? You should wear more eyeliner and mascara. I see you're getting a little bit of weight. You should lose weight. Now, he didn't directly say that, but there was ways that he said it without sounding like an asshole. But at the end of the day, he would straight up tell me, I'm not going to marry somebody that's fat. And this is what started that mudslide, landslide, whatever you want to call it. It was the first push of the domino effect. That was a very long line of dominoes that I had allowed. But this one made a huge impact. And from then on forward, I started to really think about things and really starting to listen to the conversations that we would have. And he talked about, wanting specific things in his life that I didn't want. He wanted to retire at the age of 60. He wanted to have kids that were grown by then because he didn't want to be a 6-year-old sitting at a park with young children. But he wanted to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week so he could retire at 60 years old. And in my mind, as the woman, I'm thinking, you want to have a 2-income household where both of us are making 6 figures. You want me to bear the children. You want to have 4. You want both of us to work, and you want to be working 70 to 80 hours a week. So I'm going to raise the children and work a full-time job while you're pretty much working 80 hours a week so we can spend the next 20, 30 years miserable, and your kids be 20, 30 years old before you are truly part of their life. I knew I had to make some changes. And I did not know how to get out of that relationship. You know, I was unhappy with so many aspects of our life. My eyes started to open. You know, if you've ever been a person, this happened to me in high school, where your vision is blurred, but you don't know it until you put on that first set of glasses. And I just saw a video of these young infant babies, like 1 year old or less, that had vision issues. And they put on the glasses and they fought it at first, but then they opened their eyes and they just smiled and they could see the world clearly for the first time. And that is how I started to see everything. I saw everything clearly at the first time. Oh my gosh, I've gotten to this point. We're almost 11 months into this relationship. I'd given up my cats. I had sold all of my furniture, everything that I own except for the clothes on my back and a few pictures. Not the clothes on my back, all the clothes that I had, and a few pictures at that moment. And not that I had a lot of nice stuff, because I didn't, but I gave up everything. I gave up not just the physical things, but I gave up my self-worth. I gave up my self-confidence. I gave up my dreams to chase dreams that he set out for me. And I let him. So I can't put all the blame on him. It was me that allowed all of this up until this point. I allowed myself to get sad, depressed, eat all the food, gain weight, get to this point where I had enough. But because I did not know how to communicate and express my emotions properly, I tried to, little bit at a time, bring up things to try to see if I could make it better. So talking about, you know, the makeup stuff, the clothes stuff, like bringing up the little things like, hey, I appreciate you buying these things for me or wanting me to do that, but that's not me and that's not what I want to do. And somehow every time I tried to set a boundary around something or share my feelings about something, there would always be a blow-up fight. So then I would go back, I would recap and try to figure out what to do next. You know, there's so many examples. They're very personal, and I don't want to share all of my personal stuff. But trust me, there were some situations in there that were very hard for me to talk about, and all I was told was, my feelings don't matter. I was gaslit like a motherfucker. Like, you wouldn't believe the things that I allowed in my life. And I'm never going to do it again, is what I say now. But there's more. This is not even rock bottom yet. So fast forward, we're now in November. It's been about 4 months since being away from Austin. So it hasn't really been that long. It's probably coming up on 5 months. You know, I was missing my friends. I hadn't made any friends, but I was trying. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I was trying to do all these things in St. Louis to really start over again and reinvent myself. And Thanksgiving comes along, and we had this plan of making these amazing recipes. We bought all the food. It was just going to be me and him. It was our first Thanksgiving together. We had met, I believe, the December before, so we were slowly coming up into our 1-year anniversary. You know, even through all the fights, I still had this feeling that one day or soon in the next few months that there might be a proposal. So I had to do something. I had to figure out, if this wasn't the guy that I was going to be with, I have to plan my escape, or I have to plan how I'm going to share how I want the rest of this to go. So we were cooking all the things, and when I say we, I mean me. I was cooking all of the things for this meal, And man, it was just stressful. And I was trying to get this done and that done. And I kept asking for help. And I was not getting it from him. So he was sitting on the couch, and I don't remember all the things leading up to the blow up, but there's a few details that I do. One, I was making this recipe that he wanted, and I needed his help. And he was just like, hold on a moment. Like, I just want to watch this part of the show. And it was the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. Very freaking innocent, right? Thanksgiving parade. And it was the one where there's these girls dressed like Santa, or they were dressed like, they were the can girls, right? Where they were very, very good looking, nice bodies. Like at that point, I was insecure on myself because I had gained weight because I was so depressed and eating a lot. That he was just watching these women dancing on TV, and it made me feel terrible. I made me feel terrible. It had nothing to do with what he was doing. And I was like, great. He wants to look at these women on TV, but he doesn't want to help his woman in the kitchen when I asked. So that was that little button that was pushed, run of many throughout this day. And it kept going more and more. And that was the day that I figured out he wanted to work all these hours when we have kids, get a nanny, and pretty much not be part of his children's life. And after that, I just kind of became sad, depressed, lonely, and realized I've been alone this whole entire time. And if you've ever been in a relationship where it doesn't go both ways and you felt alone, you know what I'm talking about. You're with somebody, but you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard. You might feel loved, but it's not the way that you want to be loved. And he wasn't loving me the way that I wanted to be loved. So I tried to express my emotions. It wasn't working. And it just got into this major fight. He kept asking me what was wrong. And I just freaking blew up. I have this uncanny ability when someone pisses me off to my deepest part of my core that I can use my words as a weapon. And I don't know how this came about. I don't even know what I said. I remember one thing that I did say, but the rest of it, I have no idea. I fucking lost it. And I lost it on him so hard. I was screaming, yelling, berating him, putting him down. All the things that I wanted to express in my emotions came out attacking him as a person. This came from a very, very dark place from within me. And I have no idea how it been high. It was like Pandora's box. All these emotions were going into that box. Every time that I got angry at something and didn't express myself right, I just shoved it in this box. And one day, a hammer just cracked it open and just everything came out at once. I wanted to make sure he hurt. I think that was my plan, is make him hurt as much as I've been hurting this whole entire time. That was not the right way to go about it. And even part of me kind of retracted back and begged for him to take me back. And thank God he didn't. Because there was no way I should have gone back into that relationship. Not after that happened. There was no way that we were going to work through what I had put him through. And I wouldn't blame him either, because I literally just sat there and just unleashed. You know, when you just want to sit there and you want to yell and tell everybody exactly how you feel about them, someone that you don't like. Well, I freaking did it. I told him everything I hated about him, everything I've disliked, why we wouldn't be together, and why he's a piece of shit, and why he'll never find a person, and one day he's going to be that 6-year-old person sitting on a park bench at a park with no kids because of the way he acts and the way that he doesn't put the effort and the thought into his partner. And some of that might have been true. And maybe he made changes after that and realized some of that was true. Maybe he didn't. You know, he wasn't as bad as the narcissistic boyfriend that I had back when I was a teenager. But man, he definitely had this narcissistic tendencies, wanting to control and manipulate my life to be what he wanted to be, instead of being with a partner and loving them for who they are. So I will tell you, all the pain, all the emotions, like that doesn't hurt me now. What hurts me is the healing that I had to do afterwards. So he wouldn't take me back. Within 24 hours, I got a U-Haul trailer. Luckily, when we moved to St. Louis, I had quit my job and my 401k. I was like, screw it, let's just cash it out. Let me have some extra money while I don't have a job. Thankfully, I had that just arrive. Just like the universe telling me it is time, here you go, you are going to be taken care of. I was able to get a U-Haul trailer and hooked it up to my Jeep, packed what little things that I had in it, and then headed back to Austin. Now, I didn't have a bed. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a job. I had a couple $1,000s and a U-Haul full of clothing. That was it. I had nothing else but myself and my deflated dreams. So I knew I couldn't go right back to Austin. I had to figure out some things. So I went back to Wichita and I went back home. I stayed with my sister. Thank you, Cindy, for that. I don't even think it was a whole entire week. I think it was only like 4 or 5 days that I was back home, just starting to heal. I think the healing process is what really gets me emotionally, because it was such a deep rooted anxiety, depression, angry, pissed off, like all the negative emotions that you can imagine were right here on my chest. And when I went home, all I did was cry, maybe eat a little bit, cry, bitch to my sister, and plan what I was going to do next. And luckily, I had a friend in Austin still that was living in a 2-bedroom with his mom and was like, hey, just come here. You can sleep on the couch, like whatever you need to get back on your feet. Like, stay with me for a month or two. Like, I got you. And I was like, thank God I have such good, amazing people in my life to open their hearts, their lives, and their homes to me. My sister gave me a twin bed. Thankfully, she had just bought new beds for her kids, and so she had an extra twin bed. So I just shoved that bed in the back of the U-Haul with the rest of my stuff, headed back to Austin, and angrily unpacked all of my things into a storage unit and slept on a twin bed in my friend's living room for about 2 months. It might have been more than 2 months. It might have been 3 months. But I had a shitty job that I started with, just something to start bringing in money. And then I got my old job back at a banker, similar job. I was starting to get back on my feet, but I was still healing. I probably lost like 20 pounds. No, it was not healthy. I recognized that. I had hurt my back, and so I was also laid up for a while where I wasn't able to move. So after I finally got that better job back at the bank that I was working, I got to really start my healing. And, every time that I would be in the living room trying to sleep, and then, my friend felt guilty for trying to watch TV while I was trying to sleep, which it didn't bother me. I realized that I was just not in an environment that was healthy for me. And, I started journaling. I just started writing everything down that I was feeling and trying to come up with solutions. Like, I don't know what the solutions are, so let me write down all the problems first. And so I was like, well, the best I felt in my life was when I was doing yoga. And so I started doing yoga. I found a place where I could get a free membership by just helping clean the studio for a few hours a week. So I started doing that. And then my friend was like, okay, Liz, it's time to get your ass moving. Have you found a place to live yet? Because you can't live in my living room for your whole entire life. And I said, you're right. I need a room of my own. I need a place of my own. Well, I couldn't afford an apartment yet. But I had a friend that was like, I have an extra bedroom, $300 a month, all utilities included. I was like, really? Okay, I can do that. That's doable. It's a good start. It was a little bit of a drive outside of town, but you know what? It was my own space, and I felt like I was paying for something that, I could be proud of. So I moved my stuff into his place, had my own bedroom, amazing place, big backyard. He had a dog, cute freaking dog, It was a good situation for a while until it wasn't. I was starting to go on dates. I was starting to, feel better about life, and I was starting to be happier. And then all of a sudden, the guy that I had rented a room from got drunk and was like begging me to go on a date with him and to date him and to be his girlfriend. And it just became a very toxic situation pretty quickly. They might sound a little bit more dramatic than I'm making. It really wasn't that dramatic, but it was definitely like, okay, this is why you did this favor for me. I'm not feeling comfortable in this situation. So then that was a blessing in disguise, because at that point in time, my friend Laura connected me with this guy, Eric, who had an extra bedroom, and he rented it out for me and it was right by my work. Another stranger, another guy that I was going to live with. I wasn't sure. So I met him. We got along, and I was like, you know what? I have to give this a try, and I have to get to a better place where I can afford an apartment on my own. I will tell you, that was the best situation that I could have been in. He was such a good soul and such a great roommate. And he was so encouraging and just gave me the space that I needed and the encouragement and the love that I needed as a friend. Eric, you're such an amazing person. If you're listening to this or you ever hear this, I lived with him for about a year. And I'll tell you, that year was the most healing year that I had. And that environment was what I needed. Eventually he had a girlfriend. We got along. She moved in. We were all roommates. Everything was good. And they ended up getting married and having a baby. So I had to move out. But I'll tell you, during that time, I did some of the best healing because of that environment. And if you can do anything for yourself, is if you're in a bad environment, move into a better environment, because you can't heal and you can't do the work if you're around people that aren't supportive, and if you're in an environment that doesn't allow you to do so. So I got to reinvent myself, and I got to wipe the slate clean and be able to become the person that I wanted. And I remember during that time, I read this book by Jen Sincero called You Are a Badass. And that book was the first step to many things that I did to heal and get where I am. So I went from sleeping on my friend's twin bed, jumping from place to place, feeling isolated, feeling uncertain, not really knowing what to do, but feeling so determined to build this new life that, this turning point for me probably happened when I found a life coach. I don't even remember how I found her, but I think it was probably an Instagram feed, real sponsored thing, ad, whatever it might be. And it just hit me, the message that she gave. And I was like, that's me. I'm lost. I'm confused. I need to know what to do next. I have no idea where to start. I know what I want to feel, and I know what I want it to feel like, but I don't know what it exactly is. So I took courses. I hired this life coach. It was a $10,000 program. I went through probably half of it. I wasn't able to do more of it because I ran out of money. But at least the part that I did, I was able to get the support that I needed and the stability I needed to start making changes. So during that time living with my friend and living in this fantastic environment, I said, fuck it, I'm going to change my life. I don't want to be a person that works at a bank and works at a corporate job my whole entire life. I feel like I'm not that person. I want something that fulfills me, that gives me purpose, that drives me. And during the time of my healing, I remember I said I went back to do yoga. There was this instructor, I think her name was Liz as well, but she went by LB. I remember because I have a picture with her, and I have to share that picture someday. But she changed my life. And I remember I was doing ClassPass at the time, so it was the cheapest thing that I could find to take yoga classes. And I went to Wanderlust in downtown Austin. I don't think it's there anymore, but I went to Wanderlust, took her class a couple times, and I believe it was a Wednesday night. We went through this hard class. I was hot. I was breathing heavy. I was tired. We got in Shavasana, and I just flippin' cried my eyes out. I just let it all go. And that emotional release was so powerful And it moved me so deeply that I was like, I have to share this with the world. And I didn't share the story. This is only a couple times that I've shared this with people. But that cry, that emotional release, I had to help other people that were feeling the same way that I felt become a stronger, more empowered person. I wasn't healed, I wasn't fixed, but it was a freaking start. And so I decided to join teacher training. It was like $2,000. I couldn't afford it, but whatever. I'm going to freaking figure it out. And I did. So I got certified to teach yoga. I did this part-time while I still had a full-time, 9 to 5. I was working like 8 to 4 most days actually. And I was able to get into the yoga and group fitness realm. And it was one of the hardest things that I had ever done. That shy, youngest of 8 kids, public speaking, never been my thing. In school, even in college, I was freaking 26-year-old going to college and doing presentations in front of my class, holding a piece of paper like this in my presentation today because I was scared to publicly speak. Doing this in a camera, doing this into a group of people, teaching them yoga, teaching group fitness classes. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea because I had the worst stage fright. But I knew deep in my heart I wanted to help people. And I needed to do something for myself that gave me purpose. So I, through my coach, was able to figure out what I wanted and how to get there. And I also wanted to start my own wellness business, which I did later. And now I'm relaunching again. Now, through all of that, I was able to start teaching yoga. Orange Theory opened up across the street. And this was 7.5 years ago, a little less than 7.5 years ago. And from that day forward, my life changed because not only was I able to start teaching yoga and changing lives that way, I was able to quit my corporate job and go into fitness training full time and start making a difference in people's lives through physical health. And I absolutely became a more empowered, loving person. I, for once in my life, felt like I knew what I wanted to do as a person and I was living that dream. And there were so many people in my life that could have said, oh, are you sure you want to do that? You're not going to make a lot of money. You don't have health insurance and all that. Yeah, I didn't for a little while. And you know what? I just didn't tell those people in my life that I was doing it until I succeeded at it because I was not going to let anybody tell me what could go wrong. I only wanted to strive for what could go right. Now, this self-discovery and healing led to, so that was back in 2017 when I started teaching group fitness classes. And then in 2018, I became head coach of my very first studio that I coached at. Then I became that year, head coach of the year for being supportive and helping all of my peers and attending all of the studio openings that were happening for our business and our company throughout the whole entire city. I succeeded so much and helped so many people that I needed to spread my love more. So I became a senior head coach and oversaw 2 studios, eventually overseeing our biggest studio in Austin. And then about 3.5 years in 2021, I became director of fitness at Orange Theory. And that's where I've been here in Phoenix, Arizona, since then, of March of 2021. And if you would have told me back in July of 2017 or back in August of 2016 when I went through this terrible breakup, that 5 years from now, you're going to be making 6 figures, 3 times the amount that you're making now, and have a fulfilling purpose, I would have laughed in your freaking face. But because I was able to put my passion and my purpose first and always find a way to put myself in a good environment, even though I put myself in some shitty environments, okay? We all make mistakes, but learning from those mistakes and those failures are the most important thing. I had so many lessons. I could just continue going on and on. But if I could give you some tips to put yourself in a better situation is one, your environment. You've got to surround yourself with positive people, with people that are going to support you. In a place where you can have your own space. You can't be living in a 4-bedroom apartment with 7 people. It's just not going to be healthy for you. Have your own space. Make sure that those people in your space are positive and motivating, and don't ever let anybody ever tell you that you are not who you are supposed to be. That's only up to you on how you want to decide that. I'm happy that I hit that rock bottom, and I'm grateful for it every day. Sometimes you have to hit a low. Sometimes you have to hit a rock bottom in order to see the top. Sometimes you're so close to it, you think it's right there. But when you hit rock bottom, you see how far away it is, and you know that you need to work harder. And your rock bottom could always be worse. I know I was in a situation, I was sleeping on a twin bed right there in someone's 2-bedroom apartment, and it could have been worse. I could have had nowhere to sleep. I could have been sleeping in my car. I could have not have a car. I could be sleeping who knows where or doing who knows what for a roof over my head. So I'm very grateful for that rock bottom so I could see the top. I kept failing and I kept losing my footing every time I tried to crawl out of that hole. But every time I failed, it was a stepping stone to the next thing that I needed to do to be successful. So anytime you fail or you don't succeed at something that you wanted, don't look at it as a burden. Don't look at it as, I should just give up. It's telling you that you're in the right place. When something's hard, when you want to give up, it means that it's worthwhile. It means that this is something you need to strive for, and because it's hard, it's going to be worth it. Because trust me, the easy things out there, at the end of the day, just aren't worth it. The ride to get there is just easy. The successes you feel are easy, and they just as easily go away. But when you earn something and you have the journey is more worth it than the actual thing that you get at the end. And the things and the lessons you learn along the way, they create a better person inside of you so you can be a more empowered person and really understand what it means to be your authentic self. So my mission as a life and wellness coach is to help others find their strength, to find their purpose, and to find their authentic selves. You deserve to live your desires and your dreams that you've always wanted. And if you're going to sit here and say, I have everything in my life that I need, awesome. I really hope that you do. But if you're hearing this message right now and you stayed for this whole entire ride and you're looking for your purpose and you're looking for your authentic self and you really have no idea what that is, you'll find it. But you have to put in the work. You have to fail. You have to be not afraid to make mistakes. So if you feel lost, you feel alone, you feel stuck, I'm here for you. Now, there's a power that I want to emphasize. The power of choosing yourself, of doing the work, of creating your life that aligns with your true desires and your values. There is so much power behind that. And if you feel like doing that is selfish, the people around you that make you feel that way are selfish. Now, I'm not saying to ditch all the people around you, but it's time to start setting boundaries. You want to live your true desires, you have to start making the moves and doing the work to make sure it all aligns for you. because you can want something, but if you want to crawl into a space that's higher and really live the life that you deserve, you have to be selfish. And guess what? I use that term. If those other people make you feel selfish, that they make you feel isn't true. You make you feel selfish. Their actions and behaviors might influence you to feel selfish, but you choose whether you feel selfish or whether you want to go after your dreams. So start making choices now and today to get to where you want to be tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I actually cried a lot less than I thought I would, so I'm pretty excited about that. But I want you to know you're not alone. And this is why I created my 8-week coaching program. These are 4 steps. I'm calling it my 4-step future focused framework. These are the 4 steps that I took to get myself from rock bottom to where I am now, living my full life and my purpose. So if you're interested, I want to talk to you. I put a link in the description or the caption below where you can book a 30-minute call with me. And I want to hear about what you're going through and what I can do to help you start making the changes you need now to live the life you deserve. Because everybody in this world deserves to live a better life. If everybody lived a better life, if they lived happier, if they lived in more of a place of love and content, there would be less wars, there would be less disease, there would be less of all those negative things out there that we're trying to fight. All right. Well, thank you so much for sticking around, letting me share my story. I hope that you were able to feel the emotions along with me, understand where I'm coming from, and really let that touch your heart. It touched mine. Thank you so much. I love you guys. I'm proud of you, and thank you.